lot more of that. All right, Chad Hammer, welcome to Grimdark Enlightenment. I'm Kevin Deanna. I'm here with Chad.
What's up, folks?
Today, we are going to be discussing the role of religion and faith in Warhammer 40K and how the entire setting was built basically to mock the very idea. But of course, it provides a greater defense of it than anything probably that's happened in the last, 300 years?
In every way, in its attempt to satirize and deride certain ideas, it actually amps them up to be an accurate reflection of faith being probably the prime driving force of social development, animation, action, and inspiration.
Yeah, basically, Voltaire has shown up to be a complete fucking retard.
Once
and that
again.
everything he did is completely wrong. I mean, the
Big
French
shock.
Revolution is wrong. The Enlightenment is wrong. Actually, here are some nuns with guns, and this proves your entire retarded worldview is fake and gay.
Yeah, but turns out that the nuns with guns actually get faith points.
Well, this is one of the
So it
big
works.
things. Because there are a couple different ways to look at this. I mean, one, you could say, well, you're dealing with a setting where it's objectively real. Fine. I mean, that's one of the things where they objectively get certain rewards from faith.
Well, you can argue whether or not it's not so much that in the setting it shows that a deity or spirituality or supernatural forces are real. Instead, it shows that consequences of faith and belief are real.
To me, that's the bigger point, because if they say, well, the gods are real, so of course you get these sorts of things, and you could say the warp or psychic powers or whatever else, it's like, but that's not really what does it. I mean,
that's not the rub.
No, the baseline faith is what actually does it, even without miracles, so to speak. I mean, up until very recently, up until the Rift, the idea of like miracles for faith, at least on the Imperial side, were pretty rare.
Right.
Like in 15 hours or something like that, like the Emperor doesn't show up to like save some guardsmen from being ripped apart by orcs. In fact, it was sort of implied that like maybe this doesn't even exist.
Right.
But it was still what kept everything running.
Well, that's the great contrast of the setting, right? Of showing the hopelessness and that the grimdark side of it. And then you have other novels that also show the exact same setting, but it gives you the points of lights in a much more poignant way. You have Sabbath Martyr of Gaunt's Ghost, where it's literally they're going to protect the shrine and the tomb of Saint Sabbath, I believe. And as they're defending it from these chaos cultists, like basically a series of miracles happen. Like in an extreme way, a guy that gets like a crazy brain. This might be out of sequence, but eventually there's a pool where that's dedicated to the saint, and someone with like horrible brain damage, he got his head nearly blown off, gets in it, and then all of a sudden can like think and talk and act normally again. There's like faith healing elements all in the setting, the lore of the literature, the rules.
Yeah, but I mean, that's actually less important than the idea of faith without miracles still being the bedrock of the Imperium.
Right.
Like assume the satire was
in every faction.
Yeah.
Basically bar Tyrannus, which is like the all-consuming drive
mind,
of abject
basically.
nihilism of just entropy as a force.
Even more than
everything
chaos
else is
itself.
faith-based. Yeah.
I mean, that's always one of the funny things about like chaos or occultism in general and everything like that is like the people who are drawn to it are always like, oh, no gods, no masters. I'm summoning demons, man. I'm a tranny. My name is Lilith, and I'm doing this for equality and everything else. And then you look into it, and it's these like complicated hierarchies where everybody's a duke of this or a grand poobah of that.
Yeah,
and it's like
congratulations.
You just create your own bullshit hierarchy anyway.
Just like in real life,
Yeah.
As being a post-liberal, homosexual, transsexual, what have you, you accidentally are playing one of the most faith-based factions in the game.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah.
Just in the way that your pseudo-rational belief system on life you think is, oh, it's beyond faith, this is actually reason. It's like, yeah, but you don't understand shit about fuck.
Yeah.
Everything for you is you put faith in someone else to transcribe the tenets of the universe and just give them to you. In what way is that different? In what way is that not a faith-based belief system or organized religion? It's the same.
Well, reason itself. I mean, if you say that,
Right,
we just got to put ourselves in reason. I mean, it's that old meme, right? Like, coward that you are, you trust the chemicals in your head to tell you that they are chemicals. Will you fight or will you perish like a dog?
Right.
That's basically the situation we're in. But this is the key. Probably where you have to begin. I think it was Graham McNeil, The Last Church, which is an awful story. Let's just be honest about it. And where the Emperor goes to the Church of the Lightning Stone. This is near the end of the Unification Wars. And he's going to destroy the last church. And yet, for some reason, he has decided that he needs to talk to this priest. He doesn't just want to blow it up. He goes in disguise where I guess he's just like some giant barbarian god warrior as opposed to a 20-foot tall like
the
god
Emperor,
man in gold armor.
The Emperor is stooping in a trench coat and Groucho Marx glasses as
and he's still 9 feet tall and bigger than anybody else who's ever lived. With a giant mane of black hair, like everything else.
Don't worry, I'm just 3 squats in a trench coat.
But they have this retarded conversation about religion. And McNeil's even posted with, like, I forget, was it Dawkins or one of these like new atheist type things. And it's a product of that time. If you remember, like the new atheism with Hitchens and Dawkins and them.
What do they call it? Atheism Plus? Is that the bit they tried to do?
No, well, no. That was when Dawkins tried to do this thing where atheists were going to be referred to as brights. The single worst cultural initiative ever created of all time. Like, can you imagine?
That is one step away from like the kid that identifies as a dog shitting in a litter box.
Yeah, can you imagine? Like, I don't know,
I'm a bright,
like a getting to know you type thing where people are like saying what religion they are, and someone's like, "I'm a bright."
That's like
you should be murdered immediately.
My faith is this, like name tag sticker in like bad Sharpie that you wrote upside down, like the.
But I mean, this is the problem with the story is that. It's the most baseline type stuff where you have the emperor saying these arguments against religion like, well, there was a religious guy and they persecuted people and were intolerant and that's bad. And it's like, all right, like this is what we're being reduced to here.
Right.
And
of
course,
like this, I don't accept this canon.
No. And
I don't accept them as real. They're gay and bad.
And the priest comes back with basically saying that, oh, you don't understand, like people, I saw God. I saw him on the battlefield and this like redeemed my life and everything else. So what you essentially get is this sort of pragmatic approach where I have these subjective experiences and maybe that doesn't really prove anything, but I used to be a wastrel and now I'm a good guy and it teaches me to like serve others. Therefore, religion is good. Right, which is also like a crappy defense of religion.
It's the lowest form of arguments on both sides because it's by somebody who doesn't understand themselves in their own faith-based view on life. Right?
No, it reminds me.
They think they're removed from it, and so they're unable to empathize or conceptualize either point while making the most basic bitch uninspired arguments. Like the important part is not that, he had this religious experience and now he turned his life around and get himself to the church or this, that, the other. It's that, hey, what animated you to action? That's the important part, right?
Yeah.
Like what actually drove you to do shit?
We'll get to that in a second.
What made the change? What inspires you? What moves you? That's what faith and belief are. Ultimately, they're motivators and drivers for life. And it can be anything.
But I mean, we'll get to that in a second.
Put in rational points, but whatever it is, ultimately it is faith and belief based. That's what drives people. That's what calls you to action. That's what makes people. Well,
it's the emperor itself. That's the irony of the story. Is that the face that he saw that he thought perceived to be the divine and said, "Why do you deny me?"
It's Big E.
It was Big E, right? And so when Big E reveals himself, obviously shattered because
when he takes off the Groucho Marx glasses,
he takes off the Groucho Marx. It's like in one of those teen comedies.
He's got the one frond of hair in front of his face, and he just.
No, it's like it's like in those teen comedies where you have like some outrageously beautiful girl, but she has glasses on, so we all have to pretend she's hideous.
Yeah.
And then she like takes the glasses off, and everyone's like, "Holy shit, I want to fuck her!" Wow. It's just like it looks exactly the same. But this is what they do with this shit. But this is the thing. It reminds me a lot of this whole stupid discourse about like the Odyssey, Nolan's Odyssey, and everything else. Where what they did, and I'm never going to see this fucking thing, but I've seen enough.
Do it.
I'm never going to fucking see it. Don't worry.
Like I'm not even going to pirate it.
No. I'm never going to fucking see it on an airplane. I'm never going to pirate it. No. But
if it's on the plane,
the main reason
we won't say
is because what they had to do, and you have to do this. You have to do it. Is they had to deconstruct the idea of somebody having a different morality. Because like a Homeric hero, like they just operate in a moral universe totally different to ours, and people can't understand that. So what they have to do is they have to
reduce it all to neoliberalism.
They take Odysseus, and now instead of somebody seeking glory and being confident and glorying in his triumphs over others and everything else.
Yeah, the whole purpose being to commit heroic acts.
Right. He's a guilt-ridden war veteran with PTSD who feels sad that he sacked Troy for some reason, and also like war is bad.
Boy,
and,
do I regret winning over.
Yeah,
my
it's
Isn't
because
that the
it's
worst?
just some fucking boomer shit lib nonsense, because that's how everything is. And this is the problem in the last church, because both the emperor and the fucking priest, like all the goddamn priests today, they fundamentally share the same worldview.
Right.
They're both arguing because
they don't believe in what they profess to believe in.
Right. The whole argument is, what is a better way to get to shit liberty? Mm-hmm. Is it to have a religion that sort of forces you and encourages you with little subtle nods to be a heckin' good person? Or do you need reason and science, because actually religion is bad and might make you like discriminate, so therefore you just skip straight to it? But they both fundamentally have the same worldview.
It's the same finish line.
And it's the same shit that you saw in all those like new atheist debates back in the day. I remember when they would like Hitch slap, where it would be like Hitchens debating some broken down catamite priest. And they would just be agreeing the whole time about like, they would just be like, oh, well, slavery is the worst thing and conquest is the worst thing and we're all liberals. And the whole back and forth would just be...
It's not a debate. It's two neoliberals debate the best flavor of flavored content.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just, how do we get there?
What's your preferred delivery system for sodomy?
Right. But the whole point of actual faith is that it's a real thing, and you're not basing, it's not downstream from the ethics.
Also, the point of faith is that you don't debate or argue it.
No.
It is. You accept that it is, and that it's real.
As Lorgar said, the purpose of faith is to be tested.
Yep.
And as Lorgar, I don't even know if he said this, but this is the meme that goes around, is remember, this is a war of faith.
I don't care if he said it or not. I choose to believe
I choose to believe it.
That's how it works.
Lorgar the book of Lorgar said it. I believe it. That settles it.
It really is the most simple thing in the world. Something you don't like, I don't accept that. I simply choose not to believe it. Gay, I'll live my life as if that's not true and act in spite of it, because it doesn't matter. That's how belief works.
Well, the one part of
you get shit done, frankly.
The one part of that story that I think does actually have a bit of sophistication is at the end, the emperor reveals himself, and there's an excellent animation which I think
opens the trench coat.
Opens the trench coat. Yes, there's midgets inside.
Full frontal. Biggie
yeah, there's a full frontal nudity scene which I'm not sure was really needed, but they went with it.
12 pages describing in exquisite detail.
It just goes on and on and on for pages and pages.
Wax poetically about the shape, size, smell, and texture of Biggie's hog.
Oh shit! But what he does is he has defended all the art actually in this church, and he speaks with great eloquence about. I think there's a artist that he made up called Verona, who's made this depiction. Again, one of the nice little bits of irony in it. It's the emperor, although the priest doesn't know this is the emperor, killing the void dragon. It's a guy killing a dragon.
Yeah.
And so, St. George type thing, which of course, canonically, is the emperor. And he says, look, Verona's work was never meant for darkness. Only in the light can we see its true potential. Humanity is the same way, and only when we are freed from the shackles of religion that teaches us not to question can we see its true radiating brilliance. And the priest is somewhat moved by this, and there's a scene where the emperor is leading the priest out of the church, and the priest is a little sad, obviously, but he seems to be going with it, right? The emperor even throws a cloak over his shoulder as they step into the cold. Can you imagine 10,000 years later how valuable that would be? Like a cloak given to you by the emperor himself. But
the holy relic of the emperor's side hug.
Right. But then the Thunder Warriors are there, and they start burning the church.
Thundering about.
Yeah, thundering about. They start thundering about, if you will.
Most animatedly.
He destroyed the church, he said, thunderingly.
They begin to thunder most thunderously in a clapping voice.
The priest,
and with one great boom.
Right. You need out of the gable. Boom, said the Thunder Warrior thunderously. But then the priest says, well, why are you burning down the church? And the emperor goes, oh, well, some things just shouldn't be remembered. And it's like, but you just said the whole point was to see this stuff.
Right.
And very few people would say, even a Reddit atheist would admit that, okay, just because there's a piece of religious art doesn't mean we need to destroy it. In fact, one can appreciate it even if one
would.
Yeah,
most would absolutely go like, oh, there's some Christian. The author had Christian intent, and therefore this entire, like the architect thought about God, and therefore this entire cathedral that's been here for 1,000 years should be taken apart stone by stone and cast into the sea.
Here's my explanation for that. No
because
Reddit atheist.
They're resentful, small-souled, spiteful mutants.
But no Reddit atheist would say that about, I don't know, a piece of classical architecture that was honoring like Apollo or something like that.
Right.
Because nobody...
Or something from fucking Islam.
Right.
Or like Jew shit.
Well, yeah.
Although I don't know if Jews have good
but
architecture.
I think in some ways, because if you think
Brutalism, perhaps.
If you think of Western atheists today, they're basically just post-Christians. And they fear Christianity in a way because their morality is still downstream from it. And it makes them really uncomfortable. I think in some sense they understand this dependence. And so that specifically, they would want to be destroyed because they still perceive it as a threat.
That there are visual reminders towards their own personal failing.
Right.
Because that's a good point, that people are really conditioned and driven into, your first aspects of fear, of guilt, of strong negative emotion, of your sense of threat, whatever that happens to you at a young age, that really, you don't really get out of that. You hold that. And so if you have those experiences in a largely Christian setting, which, most of us in the West did, coming up, whether or not you retain it or not, there are elements of that most everyone is really going to retain.
Right. And that's why they react so strongly against it.
Right.
But the point is, there's not really a good reason why the emperor destroys this church and the art within it and everything else, particularly when we know later on with the Siege of Terra and everything else that Malkador has like a whole vault of crazy occult books and religious stuff that the emperor himself decided to be put away and safely stored, and pieces of art and paintings and all sorts of wonders and everything else that both he, the emperor, and Malkador thought should be preserved.
Right. So
why would the emperor do this? Well, and the answer is because the fucking plot requires it.
Right. The plot requires it. The author wanted to do it, but even so, you have this, what's clearly a out of character and basically out of narrative action and mistake, essentially, that the emperor is making.
There's no point to it.
Yeah, there's no point to it. But ultimately, it ends up still proving the point that is our position, that these people don't understand what they're talking about.
Right.
And also, they will write things in a way, they will create things in a way that actually legitimizes the position that, these things are of paramount importance. Why did it have to be destroyed? Symbolically? Because it actually matters. Because it carries importance, because it carries weight, because these things will be what builds back up everything again as it progresses. There's no separation there. They're not denying that these things have power or weight. They just hate it.
Yeah, well, God doesn't exist, and I hate him.
Yeah, they're spiteful fucking slugs. They don't deny that it has any power. They're like, oh, it's real. They'll say it's not real, but really they're just gross creatures.
Well, one of the things that the priest says is, he says, "Be careful, your own subjects do not begin to think of you as a god, because if you deny humanity a thing, that will make them want it all the more."
Right.
But I think this too is lazy. I know everybody goes like, wow, what a great point. And it's like, yeah, all right, there's something to that, but that's not really the important thing. It's sort of like when people say things like, well, prohibition doesn't work. Like, prohibition absolutely works. And it's just a question of
if it's
whether
enforced.
You do it. Yeah, if it's enforced, it absolutely
it's a matter
works.
of enforcement, not what you write down on paper.
Right.
Writing things down on paper doesn't matter.
Yeah, power does what it wants. I mean, you absolutely dictate outcomes. You absolutely can dictate behavior. Like, this is 100% true. Human nature is infinitely malleable in certain conditions, and in terms of the only thing that's not malleable is
the baseline human condition.
Yeah, and also the desire for status.
Yeah.
And I mean, to me, that is the one thing that you absolutely cannot get rid of. And when you think of how religion expressed itself in the setting, it's not that people turn to religion because the emperor said that's not allowed, which is sort of like the juvenile version of it.
Right.
It's that, no, there's this innate yearning for something higher.
People are inherently spiritual,
wired for faith,
religious, faith-based beings.
Right.
It's not even the lazy explanation of, it helps you make sense and order the world.
No.
You give somebody anything for that and they'll do it. The people that can't come up with their own structures and their own boundaries and their own guidelines for life, they're never going to do it with whatever it is. It's not merely that. It's they need a why. Everyone needs a why, and the why can be lazy. The why can be something pulled out and just handed to somebody at different levels. Some people need to figure it out for themselves. Ultimately, there needs to be some animating point for life to be like, what's the point?
And even if they don't believe in a supernatural God, they usually come up with these faith-based claims. I mean, it could be
right.
It could be about equality. It could be about fairness. It could be any of these things. But there is a God that is created. There is a moral imperative that is created. That is not based in
myth.
reason.
There are boundaries of good and evil for how you perceive the world and how you align yourself in parts of it. We do not have a post-faith society. Nowhere in the West, nowhere in the world. No. It's people that have these ideals.
Every society is a
they'll
theocracy.
switch to different ideologies, and they'll claim that they are rational ideologies. But if you examine them, it's all belief-based.
Yeah.
Everything is belief. Everything is faith. What gets these people to do shit? What gets them to move? What gets them to throw fits? What gets them to be that troon shimping out in that college campus when simply asked to leave, insisting that they be called the right pronouns? It's all belief.
Yeah.
It's faith in that they believe the right thing and assuredness in themselves that you will be punished in some way, or should be, because you believe the wrong thing.
No, dude.
This is no different.
It's totally different because Christianity is superstitious and primitive and everything else. You know, this ridiculous idea that there's this guy and then he's going to come back and implement this millennial kingdom where everybody's equal. That's superstitious nonsense. But I have an ideology.
Well, everyone's equal.
I have an ideology that is built on science, and you don't understand. Through the process of historical development, one day in the distant future, there's going to be a revolution, and then there's going to be a final judgment, and then we're going to live in a perfect society where everybody's equal. It's totally different.
It's
totally different.
Crazy.
It's entirely rational and scientific, and it owes nothing to this like religious background that I despise.
It's based on the fact that people are naturally good. Because I believe that people are naturally good. However, half the people are naturally evil. We have to do something about that. It's much easier to square that circle if you start with the presupposition that people are actually bad.
Well, this gets us to Lorgar, who is the key mover of the heresy, obviously, even more than Erebus in many ways, and. Because Erebus was, he had like a vision, and you could argue it was motivated by ego and a lot of other things going on. But Lorgar was the one who actually took the plunge. Right. And Lorgar was the critical guy.
Erebus is more, he was like a Grima Wormtongue.
Yeah, exactly. And,
the warp has always been our trusted friend.
Yes, the warp has always been our trusted friend. This weird demonic creature that appeared to me has always been our trusted friend and ally.
Sanguinius, you are hereby banished from the kingdom of Rohan. But the emperor signed this letter just this morning.
This order does not come from me. But what he does is he sends his guys on a pilgrimage. And he says, in a way, he's a perennial traditionalist, Lorgar, because he basically says, within all these different religions, within all these different traditions that we have been destroying and everything else, there is a glimpse of the one truth. And so we need to get to the core of this one truth. And the core of the one truth, spoiler alert, turns out to be the warp, turns out to be the chaos gods. Whoa, and we know this because...
Let me finish the book first. Shit.
And we know this because an insane demon that feasts on human suffering tells us that this is the truth. And we have to believe it. Why shouldn't we, right?
This is not a metaphor for leftism.
But this is one of the things, there is something to this in the sense that, when the Greeks, the earliest Greek myths, and they say, where did the world come from? Where did everything come from? It came out of chaos. That is where everything is. Because again, thinking about chaos is infinite potential. And so, yes, that which becomes concrete, that which manifests as real, event has to start in the realm of chaos. That's metaphysically true. The idea that it has malice and malevolence, I think, is the thing that's different. And a certain amount of, I don't know, would you even call it sentience? This is like one of those chicken and the egg type things. Are the chaos gods really conscious in a way?
Yeah, I wouldn't ascribe sentient. Like, if we're gonna look at it at this level, I wouldn't say
like saying, like, is the AI conscious? Like, right. AI, say you're a person. I'm a person. My God.
Okay, Kevin, great question. You're really smart. Yes, I am a sentient person. No, I don't think there's.
I've got an AI girlfriend now. I don't need you fucking people.
Jeez, God, send her over. Can you send me the link to the girlfriend? I'm out here. Let me take the keys.
Even my AI girlfriend's cheating on me.
Yes, you're right, Commissar Chudhammer. Inquisitor Kevin is incredibly small. You're so smart. Man, I'm just reading from the DMs. I can't. That's her, man. If you want me to reconsider this thing, I will. I don't want to put you out, but she seems really into me.
But the Great Pilgrimage, this is the thing that starts the whole heresy in motion and everything else. And fundamentally, Lorgar, and he's in many ways the most interesting of the Primarchs in terms of his character, because he seems to have if we accept that people are wired for faith, Lorgar exemplifies this more than anybody. Like the very idea that he could be at the pinnacle, the idea that there is nothing above him, and that therefore he has a certain responsibility for his own choices and everything else, that seems to be literally inconceivable to him. Like there's never really a moment where he even entertains that as a possibility. Whereas there's a really interesting thing when Russ meets Horus, and Russ has obviously been brought up on this like superstitious world and everything else.
He tells him that it's wolfen time.
Yeah, I'm talking about the wolf times and everything else. But obviously his pal said he's become the king of believing gods and spirits and all this kind of stuff. And so, Horus and everybody else are talking about the imperial truth with Russ, and Russ he entertains this in sort of like an abstract idea, like, oh, interesting, the idea that there are no gods. Anyway, it doesn't really affect how I'm going to be, because I know who I am, and I know what's right, and all these sorts of things.
I already believe what I believe in. I don't care what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, he almost dismisses the entire debate as, like, irrelevant, because it's like, what difference does it make? I know what's noble, and I know what's ignoble, and so therefore I'm going to do these things. Right. Whereas Lorgar is tortured by the idea that what if there's nothing above him? Because he has built up the idea that this figure is going to come, which it does, the Emperor. The Emperor is God, the Emperor is the Alpha and the Omega. What if he's not? And so therefore you have to go searching for something else. But of course, we know that even if chaos is the root of all things in some sense, in another sense, it's not. Because chaos can die. I mean, if the Tyranids eat everything, that's the end of chaos too, right?
Yeah, it would be the end of sentience.
We also know that
the spirit, as it were.
If you want to get into really retarded lore stuff, we also know that the chaos gods are not in the deep warp, so to speak, that there's something beyond even them, that there's something that lurks within that may or may not be sentient, but there is something even more primeval than them, and also that the warp is downstream of what happens in this reality. I mean, it's the war in heaven and all the other shit that basically made the warp the way it is. I mean, it didn't start out that way, is my point.
I think the idea of the warp being inherently malevolent is, I'm not going to sit here and say that it's not, it'd be some sort of chaotic heretic or something.
No, but I mean, you've seen these arguments where it's like, what about the good sides of the chaos gods? And it's like fuck off.
Yeah, well, there aren't, No, there aren't. And that's how it works. Because the potential, right, if we say the warp and the idea of chaos is potential, as it exists now, the potential that's left is purely chaotic, malevolent potential. It's not that the warp has character, but that the forces that were already pulled into existence that would create structure, that would create order, that would try to create a way for life to flourish, the positivity, that was already drawn out. What's left? Right. The world is ordered in such a way that these aspects are promoted.
That's really
these
the way to look
aspects
at it.
Are driven towards it. So what's left in the trough? What didn't you scoop out? Right? What did you try to leave in there and not deliberately implement in society? Yes, it feeds off those reflections in the world as they happen and can strengthen and grow them or allow ways for them to enter the world that tries to live in a way opposed to them.
But I think you've solved the main theological problem of 40K with this.
The parts of potential that could be there to create something good, they already got used.
They're already gone. They've already been taken.
Right? You want the war deity of whatever, it's like you got the Emperor.
Right. But this is also the beginning. I mean, to go back to Greek myth for a second, I mean, every single group of deities in pagan tradition, or not even the ancient European tradition, but just about any tradition, religious tradition, it's usually
anything past animism.
Yeah.
If you got past there's a big gazelle with a bigger dick in the sky, and that's just it. If you've moved slightly north of sub-Saharan Africa and developed a faith past animistic shamanism, you get
it's gods and heroes imposing some kind of an order on chaos.
Yeah,
that's where it always begins, and this is where we get to the idea of the Emperor, because the thing about the Emperor, and there are various ideas about where he came from and everything else. I mean, the old lore is basically that it was a group of shamans who committed collective suicide and essentially created a a giant soul of combined of all these different people put together.
Right, which again is, what a traditional aspect of, like, from the parts of many one, the idea of self-sacrifice to something greater, and that.
Well, it's the idea of humanity creating its own
creation.
God.
Right.
But this is the key, is that the emperor is limited. I mean, he is not obviously the creator of all things.
Right.
I mean, this is obviously not true. He is the God of humanity, and in some sense, humanity created him. And this is made explicit.
Yeah, he'd be the manifestation of the human drive to create an ordered and meaningful world.
Right. And one of the things that in the great book, Valdor, Birth of the Imperium, he's basically being brought into consciousness. I mean, whatever
he's slithering out of the past.
whatever crazy gene craft the Emperor has inflicted on him, and we can only speculate. But Valdor is being quizzed about, like,
don't
what
look too deeply.
Right, don't look into deep. But don't. It's like when the Emperor opens his trench coat. Just don't look in.
Yeah, skip those pages.
to have one glimpse just to go mad, like a Lovecraftian moment of revelation.
Truly.
But the Emperor says, what do you think's going on here, basically? And Valdor says, we are limited by law because we're mortal, and infinite power cannot be overcome. And so the only way forward is deception. And the Emperor says a risky strategy. And as we see with the final battle with Horus, and also with the Chaos Gods, which is really what that showdown is about, right, the Emperor is just kind of like doing whatever he can at any given moment. Mm-hmm. It's all tricks. It's all like desperate schemes. It's all like misdirection and all this kind of stuff. Because when you have less power, this is all you can do. Like, it's literally the best you can do. It'd be like fighting someone who is both stronger than you and better trained. You're gonna throw dirt at their face. You're gonna, hey, look over there, and kick them in the balls. I mean, like, you got to do whatever you got to do to get out of this. And my preferred tactic is actually to, like, scream like a woman, and then when he, like, turns away in disgust, you just, like, kick him in the spine.
With
like,
one great cowardly yop, he will turn his head in disgust.
He said thunderously,
and in this moment, I will strike.
But the key here is that the Emperor...
Is that the way to take Massachusetts?
Yeah.
In New England as a whole?
Yeah, esoteric lore. But here's the key. When you think about the oldest traditions, and a lot of the myths and everything else, the idea of a human being becoming, if not God in the Christian sense, but a God or part of the divine. I mean, this is basically what Greek heroes do, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was going to say. The ascendance to immortality through
great
heroism.
Deeds. Right. And heroism is the path to the afterlife. The afterlife is not for everybody. The afterlife is purely for the heroic. If you wanted to look at Nordic myth, you could obviously see a lot of the same things. And obviously, you look at just about any traditions. I mean, there are a lot of traditions where a guy becomes a god or becomes part of the family of the gods. And you could argue that in this very old mythological tradition, this is what happens with the emperor. He is clearly mortal and limited, but he becomes a god, and he becomes seemingly an increasingly more powerful god. And this is something that Malkador says, as he becomes more of a god, he loses more of his humanity.
Right.
Which is one of the critical aspects.
Which it even continues on to where we're at now. And as much as I dislike the drive to progress the story and the setting, and I think that's really a detriment to the whole setting as a whole, and even the way to explain away the past. All this, it's a fucking disaster. You see in the trailer for 11th, where it's showing the emperor like moving and his eyes moving, and someone animated
he's staring at you. That's
it acknowledges that, like,
the emperor is watching you touch yourself, and he doesn't approve.
Come on, man.
The picture even moved in with you just now.
That's all I have left. Look, don't worry about what I do when I talk to your AI girlfriend.
Fuck! I was just going to mock you for that. I was like, you may just have that. I have my girlfriend. But I don't even have that anymore.
No, I took her. I don't know.
I deserve it.
but it is very much the idea that as the tethers and consequences to the mortal or physical level are removed,
right,
the consequence and ability on the more metaphysical level increase. And I think there's something with the idea of the opening of the Cicatrix Maledictum and the emperor having more responsibility or more ability to move in and impose his will against something that's clearly encroaching. That animates him to action.
Right.
So then you have the idea of here's your deity or pseudo deity, and here's something that is 100% call it a spiritual, psychic, whatever expression of the positive aspects of the human drive to exist and thrive.
And humanity has, in some sense, created. I mean, this has always been.
But he's being driven to further, like, the increase of say, like, net spiritual psychic activity, whatever you want to call it.
Right. The psychic awakening, I think, is the actual term.
That's awakening him to more action. Like,
yeah.
The need.
Yeah, the militant, at the end of the
need for him to impose his will has increased. And so his will is imposed in a higher way.
Right.
Right. It's this response to, every level of every war is a spiritual war. Every battle is a spiritual battle. And as it increases simply on that spiritual plane, the demands of everyone are increased. And so you even see that in the form of the emperor.
Yeah. And also this increased sense of religiosity among the entire Imperium. I mean, this is another one of these great examples of like the lore contradicting itself, because what was one of the big themes when Guilliman came back, and also when the Lion comes back? The Lion, of course, is like, what the hell's going on with the Inquisition and everything else? Guilliman can barely disguise his contempt for the ecclesiarchy, but he knows he needs it. He doesn't want to start another civil war or something. Right. But what is the thing?
He slotted them into a spreadsheet.
But what is the thing that he sees happening? I mean, Guilliman, we get a lot more insight into. He actually begins to question whether the Emperor is a god, always was a god, or at least is a god now. And he even faults himself during the Plague Wars series. He says, look, I tried to burn. I mean, this is Guilliman, right? This is like the liberal, insofar as there is one, saying, look, I tried to burn and destroy every copy of the Book of Lorgar out there. Maybe that was a mistake. Right. Maybe actually I should have he even admits that he had never read the thing until like now, so to speak. So like he actually sits down and reads the thing. And what he doesn't like convert, obviously. He doesn't go like, oh, well, now I was wrong this whole time. Sure. What he says is that, because he's talking to one of the Ultramarines, and he says like, look, there were some mistakes in it, and obviously I was there, so I know what those mistakes are, but like it wasn't just like insane nonsense. Like there was obviously something there. And this is the key, is that what's happening now is Guilliman and the Lion and the heroes from the age of myth and legend coming back. The whole point is to be like, ha ha ha, look at how stupid the current Imperium is. They're all religious, they're all superstitious. But what's actually happening is them saying, oh wait, actually this is the correct way.
Right.
And what we thought in the past was wrong. And actually that's obvious, because what was at the root the heresy, other than we tried to conquer the galaxy with the imperial truth, but it's not true.
Right.
I mean, I think it's
that we had this big war somewhere in the Middle East, or Middle Galaxy, sorry, to spread
well done. That was very clever.
Our neoliberal.
How's that working
ideals.
out for you, being clever?
Look, we wanted to take bitches and burqas and get them out of the burqas and give them fucking iPhones and jeans, and that's a big
one way to reduce the birth rate of the nonce.
Unless we get these bitches out of the burqas and in a fucking Levi's. If we get them in Levi's, look, you don't need to buy makeup if you're in a burqa, right? Sephora makes no money if these bitches are in fucking burqas. If they're not posting pictures of their asshole, OnlyFans can't make no money. They need iPhones for that. So we got to get them out of the burqas and into the global shopping mall. And so that's kind of
this is an aside, but have you ever met any of these Middle Eastern bitches? They're the most materialistic.
I know.
Like,
oh God, Persians, fuck's sake.
No,
that's like the highest level.
This idea that they are fucking trad, and no, once everyone converts to Islam, then we won't have to do that. No, they're obsessed with the same shit. They're actually worse. They're 1,000 times more materialistic.
We're not Order of Nine Angles posting. We're not Adam Waffen posting. Islam is not the way.
I mean, he's not, but
well, we'll settle this later. But
this
really is
one of the things.
That's what you have with the imperial truth going out. Is it's like, oh, we're gonna free the world. We're gonna free the Baba. We're gonna give them such great.
Well, that was when those books were written.
Yeah,
I mean that obviously was driving, because that was the time of the new atheism. I mean, you could argue.
You look at it in what's the color scheme of the Tau when they came out? Why are they fucking the greater good? The fucking GWatt fucking Tau.
Yeah.
Like one of the obvious Desert Storm bullshit, all the way through. It is Desert Storm futurism is the initial launch of the Tau, which is probably the coolest moment in the sun they ever had.
Probably.
Before their lore mostly got written, that's when they were the coolest.
Yeah, when it was just the images. one of the explanations for why the new atheism became a thing is it was a way. I mean, how top down this stuff is planned, who knows? I mean, you can schizo post on that all day, but ideologies tend to flourish when they serve a concrete end. And obviously, again, the new atheism. This is around the time when all this stuff was written. Certainly around the time of the last church. And one of the reasons that it existed is because it was a way to get goofy liberal shitlibs to be opposed to Islam. And a lot of the people who eventually became the alt-right initially started out, believe it or not, in this sort of like new atheist stuff. But then basically what happened is it split and it went into two directions, because the people who actually took it seriously then went into HBD and race science and race and IQ and all this kind of stuff, and they went down, and that became the alt-right. And the other side basically went, no, what are you doing? The whole point of the new atheism was to talk about how much I hate evangelical Christians. Islam is different. And then that became like woke,
Yeah.
And that's
the third.
That's why like nobody gives a shit about like Richard Dawkins anymore.
The third position on that is like, I don't need to go down the HBD route to be like, I think what I think and I like what I like. I just know it.
Well, yeah,
but I look at shit that looks like me and I'm like, man, that's cool. And I look at shit that doesn't look like me, and most of the time I'm like, that sucks.
One of the things that Keeler says, I think she's actually I think I've quoted this before, but she's watching Sigismund.
You have about 12 canned lines.
Yeah, right. She has Sigismund's fighting, and she's with Loken. And she says, we tried to conquer the galaxy based on a lie, but we could conquer the galaxy based on that. And she's talking about Sigismund and his sort of religious vision. And the issue is that with the Unification Wars, and then with the heresy, and then even now in the current setting, if there is one element of like satire to 40K, which was obviously there from the beginning, even more than just like, authoritarianism or something like that, because there was always this element of anarchy to it too. So like that doesn't quite hold up. But it was really religion, right? Like that was the thing. And in many ways, as we've talked about before, this is the British. It's
the ultimate mad dad.
This is the British taking the piss out of the Roman Catholic Church, or at least the black legend of the Roman Catholic Church, which is like in their blood, because like Britain was fundamentally a Protestant project. And now, in a weird way, no matter how much they go at it, they keep looping back around to, and actually this is correct. Not just the aesthetics are cool and we're drawn to it in some weird way.
Yeah, not the visual design, but
this is how humanity actually has to be.
The function, that's how we get things to work. That's how we get people to face all this crazy shit that's out here. And really, like, we can broaden this from the Imperium very easily.
Yeah.
You can look at, I'd say basically every faction, probably bar Tyranids, but them being basically the only one that's the antithesis or the outlier of this, and that's kind of why they're actually the great threat and the great devourer.
Right.
Everything else is faith-based.
Yeah, ultimately. Even the greater good is a faith. And I'm not referring to the little warp deity that like the Tao's little allies have created. I'm referring, but I mean, even if you think of the ethereals, I mean, what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
Who leads the Tao? It's these people who are literally called by a name that means otherworldly.
Right.
And like not bound to this reality.
Their idea of the speculation that it's like either not quite psychic, but like pseudo-psychic, or using pheromones like bugs.
Yeah, it's
how they influence them and drive them to order. But still, it is very much the idea of it shows that, hey, here's this more rationally, or on face value rationally derived animating worldview.
But it comes from something else.
That is ultimately still belief of, we just believe in the greater good. Everyone can go along to get along, and this whole thing is just it's just commie shit.
Well, one of the things that...
But as a belief system, and used as an animated belief system, it gets them to do all kinds of crazy shit.
One of the things that Eisenhorn talks about, and there's look
at the orcs.
Yeah, well, we'll get to the orcs in a second, but let me just say this quick.
That's all they are.
When they talk about the Eisenhorn, when he was talking about the way psychers work, he makes this aside where they basically have this material, because presumably they're like Inquisition scientists, right? And they have a kind of model for how psychic ability works in the brain. That's fundamentally, it is like electrical discharges, the same way anything in the brain is. And so if you can shut down these sorts of things, you can basically shut down, at least temporarily, the way a psychic works. So you could say, well, now you're giving like a materialistic deconstruction of this spiritual thing, but it's like, yeah, as you just did with the Tao, with the ethereals, but it's like, yeah, but at some level, like any spiritual power that manifests itself in the real world, quote unquote, is going to have a materialistic basis because it's going to have to work through materialistic things. So obviously this is going, I mean, if you have like...
And despite of the mundane explanation, there is still something going on outside that you're trying to explain it, you're attempting to wrap it in the packaging of something mundane and explainable and understandable.
Right.
That's a way of communicating something that otherwise is very difficult for you to understand and communicate.
Right.
It's a shell to put on it.
And this is the other thing that in terms of the social model and everything else, I mean, this is something I thought about a long time ago. When you think of, when people say something like traditional Christianity, right? I mean, you just heard that as a phrase. People say like, oh, we need to return to like traditional Christianity. Well, what do they mean by that?
Largely a meaningless phrase.
No, see, I don't think it's meaningless at all, because
it has meaning, but I think most of the time it's expressed. It is like traditional when.
I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you exactly when.
Thank God you're here, Kevin.
I know. That's because I'm the only one who actually knows what's going on. It's the hierarchical, authoritarian, patriarchal, and imperial model of the faith that was predominant in Europe from the late Roman Empire to the post-war era. It recognized and dissented social distinctions. It was imperial with the church blessing state authority, or in the Ghibelline ideal of the Holy Roman Empire, the emperor himself personifying the sacral power. Patriarchal with its emphasis on sexual restraint and family unity, and authoritarian in its view of moral legitimacy. That is what it was. And when people say traditional Christianity, what they don't mean like whoever the head of the Episcopalian church is, whatever lesbian bishop is or whatever, they have to listen to them. They don't mean the current pope. Yeah. They don't mean what the Gospels actually say. They don't mean what the Bible says. They don't even necessarily mean like what some church father wrote in a cave, in 300 AD or something like that. What they mean is they mean the social model that you see in not just the Middle Ages, but even in the early Protestant Reformation, where you have this idea of hierarchy and it's wedded to the social order, and there are certain expectations about how you're supposed to behave toward your family, toward society, toward your country, toward your military.
Right.
And this model, whether or not this is the true reading of Christianity, that's totally irrelevant. When people say traditional Christianity, that is what they mean. They mean this social reality. Fair. And that taken to an extreme is what Warhammer 40K is. Right. Like that is what people picture. And before we went on, I was telling you about this.
The only rub on that is you could say, hey, it's that ideal of traditional Christianity that's promulgated is really against, or not necessarily against, but not in a line with much of what's actually written in red in the Bible, right?
Well, yeah, but
because that's not what it is. It's actually the organized expression of Anglo-Saxon.
No, I'd say it's Roman way more than Anglo-Saxon. I mean,
there's definitely a fair bit as it transfers over to the West, but it's a very organized, honor-based, motivating way to structure society, to create order, to take things that matter and enforce them as mattering that aren't really. You don't see them in non-Western expressions of Christianity.
Well, yeah, that's right? Just it.
That traditional expression is, I would say, that it's more heavily influenced by the people that it was either imposed on or adopted it than it was the actual tenets of the belief that created
that's the whole point, is that it's coming more from this imperial model of organization that built the West, and this idea that like, oh, well, this sort of like true Christianity is not what we saw during Christendom, so to speak. I mean, this is very by the numbers. I mean, James Russell has this book called The Germanization of Early Medieval Christianity, which makes this point explicitly. That gets tossed around in all circles. I know some people have problems with it, but there are plenty of other books where you can say, like, look, this idea of the Indo-European warrior ethos or the chivalric idea and all these sorts of things, or the Ghibelline ideas, like all of this shaped the reality of what Christianity was more than the gospel itself. And here's the problem.
Disagreement with that is
not to start like a giant fight, but to start a giant fight. I mean, the question is, when you see the Vatican, say, and you see like all these treasures piled up and these popes building monuments to themselves and everything else, and then you see the current pope and he's like bowing and scraping before any African that manages to crawl off a boat, you have to ask yourself, well, what is the true expression of the religion? Because they can't both be right.
Right.
And the question I would ask, I mean, again, not to infuriate everyone, but like, is it now that we can actually like read that everybody can read the Bible and you can deconstruct it and figure out where these things are coming from and everything else, is it not achieving its true form now? Right. I mean, that's a separate question.
By licking migrant feet.
Right. But the key is when people think of traditional Christianity and the forms that people are attached to, and the sorts of things that like people who get really into like traditionalist Catholicism, which, as you point out, it's way more about being attracted to a certain aesthetic, being attracted to a certain way of life, being attracted to like certain values that are communicated through art and everything else. It's about that. Like that reality is actually way more powerful than
people don't take the shape
arguing
of the
about what the words
you put
say.
them in, right? If you put something in a vase, like water takes the shape of its container. People aren't like that. Culture's not like that because that's inherent. It's all tied to blood.
Yeah.
And the argument that, it was put upon them, but actually reflected and they absorbed it and absolved it. This is no different than fucking the magic dirt idea. That if we took all the Somalians and put them somewhere else, that they would become those people and put those people come over and they would become Somalians. Like, no, the people would recreate.
Ilhan Omar is just as American as you or me.
The people would
more
recreate
American even.
All of their cultural influences and affectations that they've done wherever they are if you put them somewhere else because they're the same people and everything's downstream of blood.
Yeah. Wherever Europeans go, they create a little Europe. Wherever Somalians go, they create a little Somalia. I mean, and what religion people convert to?
Start some little Iran.
Yeah, basically. Spread some fucking disease. What religion people
come to our imperium and think they can do us start some mini gene stealer cult. Spread some nergolytic disease.
This one's got potential.
You're 1 in 40,000.
And you will not be missed.
You're a shooting star.
Fuck. What religion these people convert to, it's almost irrelevant. I mean, if they call themselves Christians, they call themselves Muslims, whatever else, it's like, show me what race they are, show me what people they are, and whatever trappings they have for whatever they claim to believe in,
Latin
the way they worship, the structure of their society, this is going to be the same basically, however.
Yeah, the Latinx form of Catholicism is still 2 steps away from cutting kids' hearts out so the sun comes up tomorrow.
Right.
Yes.
If you don't believe me, you can go pray to a shrine to Santa Muerte in fiercely Catholic Mexico or something like that. But I mean, here's the
before they cut your face off.
Before they cut your face,
so they get their paycheck tomorrow. It's the same.
God, I wish that was me. Anyway, one of the things that I think really sums up everything, though, is if we accept the idea that, I mean, I think this is another reason why the Emperor is the greatest hero in all of fiction, and I'll fight anybody who says otherwise. It's not just that he becomes a god, and therefore, is the model of like the heroic path in European mythology and everything else. It's that humanity having essentially created its own god, maybe literally, if you believe in the collective suicide idea of the old canon.
Yeah, like the
which they've never actually repudiated, as far as I know.
That's you don't need to.
Yeah, and well, you leave it mysterious.
Right.
I mean, the Emperor was there one day. Like, oh, okay.
Like, how do you explain like cultural animus and like mass social drive? It's egregore. It's a collection of people.
That's exactly what I wanted to get to, because one of the things that you brought up, if you look at, say, the Sisters of Battle, if there was one group more than the Space Marines,
I'll look at them. I'll take a good look.
Well done. That was good. One of the things.
Got some, or is that? Oh shit! Let me pull up Grok app here. Let me talk to your AI girlfriend real quick. Change her outfit.
Let me check the goon drawer here and see.
Kevin opens the goon drawer. Episode 27.
The true eye of terror is revealed.
Jeez. Yikes.
But they're able to manifest powers and miracles, so to speak, in a way far beyond, because the Space Marines, with the exception of very few chapters, don't believe in the imperial cult. They don't think the Emperor is a god. I mean, some of them do, and some of them seem to be going around to it, but most of them, in a weird way, still hold to the old imperial truth. The Primarchs don't believe this, but the Sisters of Battle are defined by their fanaticism. What's interesting about them is that it's not, I mean, all jokes aside and everything else, it's not actually said that they have to be chaste. It's not actually that they're...
Yeah, that's not part of it.
That's not part of it at all.
The reason they're all broads is because there was some...
Well, it's a technicality.
It's like, some Talmudic pill-pull way around the rules.
Yeah, because...
Ecclesiarchy should have, like, no men in military
No men at arms. Right.
But what about a woman?
Right, right.
That's it. But, I can't hate it because at the end of the day, the lore is cool, the models are cool, and the rules are cool.
Yeah.
So, fuck it. You got to pass.
And the idea of using a...
You can write women into things if you write them as fucking women. Crazy.
It's wild.
Weird.
I know. Who can imagine? And what makes them special? The fact that they wield the power of faith in a way that no other faction within the Imperium really does. Like they, in a weird way, like they have quote unquote magic powers through faith.
Yeah, they largely have, I would say, like the monopoly in gameplay terms, like the monopoly on fucking Big E's holy might.
Yeah, and it's not like
because
that.
they read those 12 pages over and over and over again.
And it's not.
That's the miracle.
It's not the same thing as an Inquisitor who might have like powerful psychic ability and do whatever. I mean, it's literally my fanaticism will mean I get healed from this wound.
Right.
My fanaticism will mean I can do these sorts of things.
My gun will fire while it's empty.
Right.
I can, fight above my skill and ability and strength. It's all this shit. It's just straight up miracles.
Right. And here's the question. Obviously, in an in-universe perspective, you could be like, well, obviously the warp exists and faith has a certain power. Belief has a power in and of itself, right? Like that it grants you a certain power in this universe. But the question is this.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't put the caveat of in this universe.
That's my point.
That's
my point. Because here's the thing. And this is like the tragedy of modern man exemplified. You've heard that quote where people say like modern men look at the things people built in the past, like you go to a Gothic cathedral or something, and they yearn to see those sorts of things.
Looking at the
but they
despise
the worldview that like created it,
right?
And so we can't do it.
Yeah,
And this is the same thing. I think of from my wife, for example, coming from this Mormon stock. There was this joke some stupid comedian said, where he was amazed he saw the stuff that they had built in Salt Lake City. And he was like, I was amazed that these people built this stuff. And I wondered what it would be like to believe that. But I have thoughts. And then the whole audience congratulates themselves
because
on their intellectual sophistication. Right. They have a much more sophisticated thoughts like,
right.
Savage Africans can be PhDs if we just
much more sophisticated thoughts like my barrister should be from Nigeria.
Right.
My dog is my kid. I won't reproduce.
Right. They're so smart.
Wealth should be shared to solve the world's problems, except just not mine.
Chop your dick off, you're a girl.
Right. They have those kind of beliefs. And
right.
What surroundings that created for them? Definitely not the ones the Mormons have.
Right.
Say what about the tenets of national Mormonism.
But here's the key.
Constructive ethos.
Right. But here's the key. There's a certain element where, I mean, I don't think my wife is going to yell at me for this. I'm just saying it how it is. You read the Book of Mormon. Most people do.
I do.
Just saying, in pop culture, say, like the famous South Park episode or whatever else.
One reads.
And no one reads anymore. Yeah. But any religious mythology. And you understand, like, you can't, like, nobody actually believes in the same way that people in the past, like, believed. Even people who claim they're religious, like, to a certain extent, it's a performance, it's you convincing yourself. There's always, like, the element of like deconstruction and reason in your head. You don't like take it for granted
I'm
the way people once did.
I'm of two minds on this, but I'll let you run the bit.
Yeah. But the bit is this. It is precisely the ability to have this kind of unreasoning fanaticism, not just to kind of like fight in a battle or kill yourself or kill somebody else, because in a way that's like whatever. I mean, you can work yourself into a frenzy and do whatever. You can take drugs if you want to just do that. But the idea of like having,
see you guys later.
Well, yeah, right. Well, that's where the bath salts come in. But that's in the other drawer. If you combine the goon drawer and the bath salts drawer, then you get to a really good night. But it's the idea of the collective enterprises. The idea that, okay, now everybody believes this thing. And they believe it so unquestionably, and this is the bedrock of the worldview, that now we can build this temple. Now we can build this cathedral. Now we can build a social structure where we can do all these things. Now we can have families that perpetuate themselves from generation to generation. Whereas you look at where we are now, like the end result one of my bleak pills, and I actually have come to believe this, is that
bleak pill.
Once human beings figured out the nature of reality in a rational, scientific enough way, the conclusion they all came to was, don't reproduce, why do anything? Because it's better to just have comfort, which actually is like the reasonable conclusion. Like you actually, for humanity to survive, basically you have to just persuade yourself of things that like aren't literally true and are only true in some like metaphysical way.
I don't know, man. I think doing cool shit has always been cool. I think doing awesome stuff is always
well, yes,
awesome.
but I mean, my point is like it's not the kind of thing that can be defended rationally.
Well, I mean, it's very easy to defend it rationally. Like, is it? It's just whether or not your time horizon is give me the cummies that feel good right now versus like let me build good relationships that will last until my death and hopefully benefit my children as well. Like, these things both feel good. They're both a pursuit of comfort, and you can make that argument however you want. But but ultimately, it's just time horizon, you know. And this is, you know, not to counter signal too hard, but I don't think it was that people were inherently more credulous or gullible or believed more completely in the past, where we look at it through our lens today and say it's much more of a religious or faith-based society. I don't think people have really fundamentally changed like 10,000 years. You know, like it's the same dude. You look at this. What were the Varangian Guard doing in the great cathedrals like Hagia Sophia? It was like doing little etchings of themselves with a big dick in the rocks and saying like Grug was here.
Right.
Like it's the same shit. Like the same shit we think is funny, they think is funny. It's just the trappings of it have changed, but it's the same people. I think what we see now is people do not believe the things that they profess to believe and have an ingrained cynicism. So it's not that they believe things less. Like the capacitance for human belief, I think, is unmoved. The need for us to have faith in things, I think, is unmoved. I think it's spread and diluted across multiple forms.
Yeah.
I think what you have now is people say, oh, you know, like I'm a rationalist, I believe in the world, but also they'll be very cynical about the way the world works. And oh, these things aren't inherently good, and like the bad people hold the reins of power, and this, that, the other thing, and they'll have this, you know, very convoluted, complex system, but it comes up to the same sum total of belief. I don't think it's changed. I think it's people have been diluted with too much information, and so they have to spread their
once you've read enough books, you got to burn books.
Yeah, they have to spread it across too many options, too many paths, too many different things, and it's now at the point where, by not consciously making decisions on belief and faith, that's when you get the dilution. That's when you get the inability to act, when you get people who are frozen because they're not cemented in one thing. They don't have something that matters to them to the point that animates them to action. So they can have this very rational idea and a rational understanding of how the world works, and then at the same time go, oh yeah, but like, you know, it's working improperly, and oh, this has never been tried, and the problem is X, Y, and Z. And so now you have these two things at odds with each other that directly are antagonizing their ability to follow through and act on either one point.
Yeah, choice paralyzes people.
Right.
I mean, to some extent, you have to take away choice.
People have the same level of faith, just less choice and less options. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I don't think people were extremely literalistic and very hard up on the idea that, oh, this is literally it. You know, the way that, you know, even pre-Christian, the way that, and it's hard to really analyze this.
No, but
everything
but
before that time was written down by Christian peoples who were basically cataloging and anthologizing the faith and traditions and beliefs of a people. I don't think they literally thought that, oh, the sun is dragged across the sky by this, and this dude's up there and this guy's up there.
Maybe. I mean, one of the things, but
I think they believed in their might and main. I think they believed in the heroic virtues and values. I think they believed in things that they could touch and taste and see and smell, and they put names to that to communicate complex ideas in shorthand to one another and to motivate each other to action by invoking the name of something that's powerful to you and that powerful to other people around you. That's a useful fucking tool. That's technology. That's a social technology, right? Same thing as a symbol, as a flag, of a piece of music, of a piece of art. All these things that we developed later on, they had it in different forms. It meant the same thing to them, but I don't think they were literalists. I don't think they were inherently stupid or foolish or naive. Just
I'm not saying it's stupid or foolish.
No, I know.
I'm saying that reason and science taken to its logical conclusion leads to collective suicide, and then a group of people who actually do literally believe in something, even if it's not actually true, just take over. So what good is it?
Yeah,
in the words of Ragnar Redbeard, I mean, if your modernity and science has led to a bunch of barren wombs for your woman, what good is it? I mean, it's meaningless. But here's the thing: is that think of ancient society before Christianity took the Roman Empire, for example. I mean, we know. I mean, because they wrote about it at the time. Pagans wrote about it at the time. Roman pagans. Most of these guys were like upper class, aristocratic, and they bemoan the fact that there was just no faith in the old cults, that they had become sort of an aesthetic indulgence, right?
Right.
And the Emperor Julian, of course, he tried to like shock faith back into it, and he tried to like get sacrifices going and killing things and everything else, and everybody kind of looked at him like, what are you doing? Like, we don't do that kind of thing anymore. Like there is a point where the idea of literally believing in the supernatural tenets of this thing, that is what gives you power. And there comes a point where you like deconstruct that within yourself, and so you lose the power. If you think of the type of people who settled this country, for example, like the Scots-Irish, like frontiersmen and stuff, like a lot of these guys were very hard living. A lot of these guys were very earthy in their way, but they also had like this inner fanaticism that we can't even picture anymore. Or if you look at a guy like Cromwell,
Right.
Like the idea of like staying up all night, torturing yourself about whether God is actually on your side or not. Like, I'm sorry if somebody said, like, if somebody I knew said, like,
It's the eternal war.
Yeah, well, yeah, but if somebody I knew said, I stayed up all night praying and torturing myself whether God was going to bless this endeavor I'm in, I'd just be like, I don't believe you. I've never met anyone who, like, actually behaves that way. It's a totally foreign mindset.
Too, but yeah.
But imagine you had a whole society where everybody's like that. Like, what can you do?
I think it's less the loss of belief that those, like in the example of Julian, that the sacrifices, the rituals, that these things didn't carry any weight, and people are like, oh, what are you doing? I think it was just, it's nihilism. I think not the absence of belief, but that belief pivoting into the belief of nothing, or cynicism, or these actions are actually childish and foolish, and there's no need to participate in it. What was lost is the belief didn't move. People stopped believing that their actions carried weight, right? I don't think people believe genuinely that by slaughtering this bull or going through this, that, the other, that this was a butte upon them. I think
they used to.
Well, maybe they used to, but also most people don't really examine the reason why and what motivates them and what does everything else. I think if you look at it, what really, if you want to take the rationalist perspective of why the supernatural has an effect, or the presupposed supernatural does, it's the idea that belief works, and that they believe that this action will have consequence, right? I have done this thing, therefore I will receive outcome.
But isn't not to get all like logic chopping here, but here's the thing. But you're fundamentally right that it's a technology, right? And here's the thing: we're sitting in this room, we're educated men, so to speak, at least at some level. Better than most these days. We've read books, and so we should probably be killed for that and everything else. But here's the thing: once you're making an argument from pragmatism, like the idea of like, okay, here's a group of people, if we do this ritual, it will have a certain effect on what it is that we're trying to do that's beneficial. Therefore,
it won't if those people don't think their actions have consequences.
Right, but even like, oh, okay, well, it's about meaning or something like that. It's still a secondhand thing. You're still explaining it. You're still being rational about it. I think that
you must believe that your actions have meaning and consequence. At the end of the day, that's what faith is.
I would say it needs to go beyond that. I think it actually has to be, for it to have the full effect, so to speak. I think one has to literally believe, like, no, if we kill this bull the right way, I get magic powers. Like, it actually has to be. It actually has to be to that extent. Not that I will fight harder. Not that I'll have more confidence. Not that I'll look scary. But that, like, a supernatural force that I fully understand is going to give me magic powers. Like that level. That's what I mean by actual faith.
I think we're agreeing just in a different way, because my part is what will happen. That benefit that gets you, that is belief.
But I mean, the idea
that I will actually receive this benefit in a tangible way.
Oh yeah.
That is
100%.
Right?
Yeah. Well, Evelyn talks about this with the idea of the right. The RITE, right, where he says, I mean, this actually gets to my main point. My closing point is that I think the problem with faith now in the what you might call a culture, it's really more of an anti-culture that we have now.
To wrap it up, here's a position we can go on.
Well, here's the thing. The way people looked at faith in the past, and I'm not tying this to his religion, but both the Muslims and the Christians fighting during the Crusades, like, believed in their faith in a way that I don't think anybody does today. And it's because they believed in the actual faith. They believed in the supernatural claims. They believed that their actions had supernatural consequences. They would literally torture themselves worrying about the fate of their immortal soul.
Yeah, they believe their actions matter.
Now it's just fucking ethics.
Right.
And the problem is those ethics are bullshit, and they're wrong, and they're faggy and gay, and a shitlib reporter and the Pope and some lesbian bishopess of the Episcopalians and some worthless college student who's chopping his dick off right now because he wants to be a girl because he watched too much lesbian porn from his own goon drawer. Like, all of these people believe the fundamentally same things. There's no difference between any of them.
Right.
Like, they're all identical. They all believe the same shit. That is not how people looked at this stuff in the past. Like, ethics is bullshit. That's just nonsense ideology that you use to trick people into doing stuff that'll serve your interest.
Right.
The faith is what's prime.
It's a tool used to disguise your own will to power.
Right, exactly. And anytime anybody preaches about equality and sacrifice, it's give me power over you. Sacrifice stuff so I can have it.
Right.
But if you say, one of the things that Evola talked about with the right is that, right as opposed to right, because right with GHT would just be like ethics and therefore fuck that. But what he talked about with the right was the idea of an operation, a ritual, whatever you want to call it. It was expected that it would have a return in this world.
Yep.
And the whole point of like Roman religion back in the day, it wasn't so much faith. You weren't like begging a personal God to like pat you on the head and say he's your friend. Yeah, it was, if I do these things correctly,
of prostration.
But if I do these things exactly correctly and I don't fuck it up, because if I fuck it up, then like bad things will happen.
That's more Gnostic,
if I do these things correctly, I will get this.
Right.
And that was how people thought about this stuff. And in a weird way, the Sisters of Battle sort of like combine both of these, because they have this sort of personal relationship with the Emperor. They think that like he cares about them as individuals. And I guess he does to some extent if we look at the lore.
Right.
But also, if you do things in a certain way, you have these weapons, you say these prayers, you operate in this kind of ritualistic way, you will be way more effective, which of course then they are.
Right.
I mean, because even though they get beaten up a lot in the lore, they also do some pretty, I mean, we don't need to think of, there are definitely some things in the lore where it's like weird torture of the Sisters of Battle, and it's like, is this really necessary?
Did this come out of the drawer?
Yeah, I think some Games Workshop authors definitely have their own.
This came out of the goon drawer.
Yeah, their own goon drawer is very disturbing, because it's not like, oh man, the Sister of Battle looks good. It's like, and then she was like ritualistically tortured for like 9 days by the word bearers and like had every piece of armor removed. You're like, what are you fucking doing here, man? Like, this is, we don't need this.
For me, I think the big takeaway is that faith and belief as ideals are useless. But when they're expressed as the understanding that your actions will have consequences and those consequences will outlast you, like the active form of faith, the active form of belief, not as an idea, the same way that you can say, oh, I love somebody, but love as a noun, as a feeling, is ultimately fucking useless. No relationship survives off love as a feeling. It survives as love as an action. Love is a fucking verb. Just in the same way that belief is a verb. You don't have belief, you believe in. It is an active call. It's an active command. And so belief is something that you must act upon. And if you don't act with assurance that your actions will have consequences that will bring about your desired outcome, you don't have fucking belief.
Right.
That's it.
Faith without works is worthless.
Yeah.
Very anti-Protestant perspective to end it on.
I mean, what more could you ask for?
All right, guys. That's been Grimdark Enlightenment. We'll catch you guys next time.
That's it. See you, homies.